Time now for touchdowns and fumbles when we take a look at how the newsmakers handled the news. Joined as always by Bob Reed of Veritas Communications. Bob, busy week, and we're going to start with the defense minister. Where else really this week? Harjit Sajjan, who was accused of inflating his role in something known as Operation Medusa. Now, he said originally that he was an architect of this operation and then had to step back from those comments when other soldiers spoke out. Here was the defense minister when he was questioned about this earlier in the week.
Acknowledge my mistake. I'm owning that mistake. I'm here to be able to acknowledge my mistake.
Okay, consistent message. He's owning it, but was that enough?
Semi-owning it is the criticism that a lot of people have put out because, as we heard, he kept using the word mistake. I made a mistake, I made a mistake. He never said, I lied, I made stuff up about the importance of my role, I exaggerated, and don't hold your breath looking for a conclusive word like that or a blanket statement, if you will, because this is politics. And one thing that he knows, and the Prime Minister's office and the communications aides on Parliament Hill are, if he comes out and says, I lied, I made it up, I delivered a falsehood, however you want to put it, any unequivocal term like that is going to be the clip that will be in the next opposition campaign commercial that will play endlessly. So I think he's being very careful, very strategic in his language, going only so far as to use words that are less inflammatory in a future context.
Okay, so do you give the Liberals a touchdown on how they're handling this? I mean, they're obviously in crisis mode here. Sajjan is a very important minister to the Prime Minister.
They made the decision that they're going to tough through on this. And so given that scenario, I'll call it a touchdown. I'll hold my nose and call it a touchdown because, you know, people want to see a full and unequivocal ownership of the issue. We're not getting that, as I say, for that very strategic reason. My other thought on this, Jeff, is we're living in an era where in politics and public life, the rules are different than they used to be. Because, as we've seen, you can say the most inflammatory, outrageous things and get elected president of the United States. So I think that political calculus was done by the Trudeau government saying, we can tough through this. People, yeah, we'll have a rocky week or two, and this will continue to come up over time, but is it a fatal misstep for the minister? No, they're going to tough through it.
All right, let's move on to Prince Philip. There was a big emergency meeting at Buckingham Palace yesterday. A lot of speculation as to what was being discussed. We eventually found out that Philip was retiring from public life.
It was a perfect storm of events. And yeah, as you said, emergency meeting. That was the word that came out from the palace, that all staff were being told there's going to be a mandatory come back from wherever you might be if you're sort of off-site meeting. And that set the ball rolling, because as soon as you hear that, given the age of Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip, the speculation went crazy. Combine that with one of the major British newspapers mocking up a headline based on the speculation, and then accidentally having that go live on their website that declared him dead and had a placeholder for the details. So you had all of that at play, and it led to a feeding frenzy.
Was there a lot of unnecessary drama here, though? Is this not something Philip at 95 retiring that I don't know, piece of paper, a press statement?
Press release would have made it a lot more clean, a lot more simple. Buckingham Palace says we have these meetings from time to time when there's a major development happening, and him retiring from public life is fairly significant. It's definitely going to be a change in the routine. So they want to get ahead of it internally. They want all of their staff to know exactly what's happening before there's any speculation or before there's any public statement. So it makes sense in that regard, but as we saw how this played out, I think they should go with a press release next time. So we'll call that one a fumble.
All right, and finally this week on Touchdowns and Fumbles, have a look at Jimmy Kimmel with a very emotional monologue this week.
If your baby is going to die, and it doesn't have to, it shouldn't matter how much money you make. I think that's something that, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or something else, we all agree on that, right?
Now, Bob, Jimmy was talking about his young son who needed open heart surgery there. He took that opportunity not only, to tell an emotional story, but also to make a political point.
Tremendously powerful statement. 1,000%